922. Curtis Stevens Planning in the building. How are we doing today?
Hey, CJ, doing good.
I'm glad
to be here. How about yourself?
Well, I'm glad to have you back in after the board broke last week. You were my Monday show from hell, quite frankly. As you can see, we got it hot glued back on. But this is a great tie-in because, you know, even though, yes, this is patchwork and we're getting it done, you don't want to have a financial advisor, anybody in that realm that's only patching together some things, just going by the seat of their pants. You got to have somebody that's prepared and ready to go forward. You know what I'm saying?
That's true, but adapting and overcoming is very important. It's crucial. It's crucial that you can adapt and overcome. So well done, CJ.
This is great, man. It's great to have you in. And coming up, I mean, you're only a couple of weeks away from this with Liz Heller, and that's August the 13th, the estate planning and the tax education dinner. That's going to be at 6 p.m. I like the dinner start time on the 13th. This is going to be at the Wedge, correct?
Yep. Yes, it is.
Fantastic. And the gang's back together. Is this going to be kind of like your lunch and learns, just a little bit later time?
It is. It's a little bit later, a little more content.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, last time me and Mark did it, and this time it'll be me and Liz.
And there were some cool prizes with you and Mark, weren't there?
There's always some cool prizes. They bring some great tickets, Cardinals tickets. And we have some other things that are fun to give out too.
There you go.
And I do enjoy throwing stuff at people. I'm not going to lie. I like no overhand throws. But yeah, we pass out prizes. We have fun.
This is cool.
We want to encourage participation, right? We want people to raise their hand, ask questions, not derail what we're doing out of respect for everybody in the room. But yeah, we want people to bring questions that are on their mind and maybe a burden on their back.
You can see it on your screen here. It's for Thursday, August the 13th, and this is a really great opportunity to discuss the biggest estate planning mistakes people make, and also, you know, the taxes, the tax implications that come into play with it, and really what that looks like in the back end of it. I'm sure that there's so many people out there too that it's not going to be everyone today is listening to this going, oh, I need to get this done. Let me sign up. But I can guarantee, and I know that you're right here with me on this. There's got to be at least 10 to 50 people that are tuned in today that are going, actually, you know what? We got to take a look at this stuff, you know, and it's time.
Yeah. And unfortunately, right, a lot of that stuff families don't realize until it hits them and they're in it. And by then it's too late to make a plan or do anything about it. So sometimes just taking a look at where you're at, what you're doing, double checking that your documents are actually doing what you want them to do, that your accounts and things are titled appropriately. It can make a world of difference for you and your family. Well,
and you know, the word fiduciary, I feel like we hear all the time on like the TV ads now and everything. But, you know, what does it actually mean in practice? And, you know, how would, I guess, a person verify what that person, you know, does across the table for them, if it actually is legit, if that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. There's some licenses out there that they're just, it's called, they're justified by suitability.
Okay.
And I'm not here to beat that up, but anything we do at Stevens Planning, it's beyond suitability. As a fiduciary, I'm legally obligated. And first of all, it's just good business. If you treat people like family, that you always act in their best interest, no matter what.
Yeah.
So advice that we give or anything that we do at Stevens Planning is always putting the client and the family first. So that's truly, in my opinion, what a fiduciary is. It's someone that's passionate about what they do, serving in a capacity that is always in the best interest of others.
Well, and I think that's really where it's important, because so many people could get just stuck on that first step. You know, maybe you see an ad somewhere, or maybe you hear about somebody that's new, or you just, whatever you find, but you don't get started off on the right path with the right person. And it's not saying that individual is bad, but it's really a partnership, you know, and you guys definitely have to be a team.
Yeah, and I think if you're gonna call yourself a fiduciary, you need to have multiple licenses, because if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? You know the old saying. So we put in the work. We make sure we have access to anything that a client could need or want, and the good news is we don't work for a company, right? So I work for my clients. So we're independent. We can always look for the best thing for them at that moment.
Well, and see, I think that's where I like coming back and talking about this, because any attorney can really, you know, draft any document you want. That's not really the hard part. But what is the advisor's job after the client leaves, when we're talking on just all this stuff, to make sure that nothing really about that plan falls apart? Because that's where, I think that it really struggles, is keeping the glue in place and making sure that the machine's still firing.
Yeah. And, so I've got some experience working on the river, right? And so I just, in my mind, sometimes I always think of my clients as the captain and I'm the deckhand, right?
Yeah,
and so it's my job to execute. It's my job to call distances, make sure that people are safe. At the end of the day, I find people, because of our process at Stevens Planning, step 5 is making sure we're not a burden, right?
Yeah.
And step 1 is investments. And most people come to me with investments first, but at the end of the day, I can find people with an unfunded trust. I can find people that need a will. I can find people that think it's best to leave an IRA to someone that's not their spouse, even though tax laws have changed with the Secure Act. So it really just depends, CJ.
Well, and I think that's where, I get most scared, I think, or most hesitant whenever I'm just thinking about this for myself, too. It's, how much do I know, and how much am I willing not to know and to trust into somebody else? Yeah,
and CJ, let me just expound a little bit on that question. Okay, at the end of the day, the reason that attorneys like working with me is because it's easy for people to get lost in the sauce, so to speak. There's a lot of moving parts. Some of the stuff's foreign. And so if there's not people on the account side making sure things are properly titled, then there's a mismatch in between the way they want their assets and their things to play out and how they're going to play out. So it's my job to understand how they have their estate built. I don't need to even see the whole trust document. Most people don't realize that trusts are private and wills are not. But it's my job to make sure we see it through according to my clients.
Well, and going into that too is the funding component of it. And I'm sure that everyone kind of for me, it's either an underestimating process, or to me, I'm overestimating it, because I'm like, man, how do I even start? What does that even look like? How much do I need? What does that process really involve? And what happens when it never gets finished?
Are you talking about just having some estate documents in place?
Yeah. And funding that, and, starting to fund that trust, and you don't do it, or it doesn't come to fruition.
Well, when I sit down with people, most folks, like we're talking right now, they think, well, when I'm gone, leaving my stuff. How about while you're recently married, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want your spouse to be able to act on your behalf?
Yes.
Medically? Like if there was a medical decision?
100%.
What if there was something legal and you couldn't talk and you lost a couple of your limbs?
Yeah.
Who would you want to execute your will?
My wife.
Okay. Well, if you don't have a power of attorney in place, there's a whole process they're going to have to go through. And so the wills and the estate and all those things, part of the process is getting power of attorneys. Yeah. So that while you're living, you're also taken care of. So it encompasses a lot of different dynamics of your life. And if your finances don't match that, it can just be a mess. Well, just be a mess.
Well, and I can only imagine some of the nightmares that are created from that, and true nightmares. How often do you find that a client's beneficiary designations contradict what their will and trust says?
Often.
Really?
Yeah. Very often.
Yeah, why so? It's just not updated, or
it's not fun to talk about, right? And
Gotcha.
and most of the time, if we know where it's at, if we know what it's doing, and we know how to find it, that's better than most people, to be quite honest with you. There's a lot of folks out there. It's called junk drawer investing, right? Let's be honest. Everybody's got a junk drawer in the kitchen, right? And if you have been intentional about accumulating, you've got multiple accounts, different types of money, you can go over. You got a folder somewhere, and you go over there and you bust it out. You open it up and you know where it's at. And that's great. But how often do you call the company and say, hey, I want to double check my beneficiaries? Yeah. So it requires a little bit of work. And there's people out there doing this. This isn't everybody, right? There's some folks that are on top of it, and I high five them, way to go. But I just find that the common story is that this isn't something people want to look at and review and be intentional with.
Well, and I can see that, especially if
I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I have parts of my estate that I'm still cleaning up and still organizing.
Yeah. Well, and I can easily see it being one of those things that you get really focused on and fired up about, and then you set it and forget it type of thing. And then you go, I'll get to that in a couple of months. We'll figure it out. And then you just never do. You push it off. And it's really I just like the realism about this. You know what I'm saying? It's not like some outlier and an asterisk caught you up. It's people being people, and things happen. And
it's life.
It's life.
And and life's messy.
Yeah.
Yeah, to try to create, and I'm not an attorney, right? That's why I work with CPAs. That's why I work with attorneys. But as a fiduciary, I need to know what your account's going to do. I need to know the tax implication for you.
Yeah.
And so if someone doesn't understand that and doesn't look out for those side effects, so to speak, to accessing your money or structuring your estate a certain way, then to me, it's just not the best service. Yeah. So that's what differentiates us. We look at the whole picture and we go through that process that I always talk about, CJ.
When you sit down with a new family,
excuse me.
When you sit down with somebody new, a new family, what are some of the things, maybe like the first 2 or 3 things that you look at to know whether their assets are positioned correctly, if they aren't positioned at all? What are those things that you look at?
Well, first thing I do is try to understand where we're at, right? Where we're at and what we're doing and what you want the money to do for you. Yeah. And that might not happen the first meeting, but essentially I look at the first 3 things. Are you going to lose half of your money the way it's invested? Is it invested in a tax efficient way? And then is it going to go to where you want it to go?
Yeah.
And those are probably the first 3 things I look at, because those have lifetime implications.
Well, and now you were saying something earlier about somebody getting an IRA that's not a spouse, and is that pretty common?
It's not super common. No.
Okay.
No, but some people have certain things, the mixed families. There's a lot of mixed families out there nowadays.
Yeah.
And there's certain people that get remarried and they think, hey, I have these assets because of my spouse who's no longer with me, and those should go to my kid and not my new spouse, right?
Yeah.
So there's a way to position those things. Well,
that's where I'm kind of getting at, though, because you say, like, with tax laws changing and all of these things, I'm sure whatever worked for Grandpa in 1985 might still work today in some sense. But, to me, if you just are listening to the way or seeing the way that, our relatives did it, you're going to put yourself not maybe in peril, but in a position to where you're missing out on, or you're losing a lot of money, or a significant amount of money because you aren't looking at things in the new scope,
Yeah, absolutely. And so, for instance, for that family I just described to you, maybe it would make sense not to leave, if you plan on leaving something behind to your new spouse, maybe it shouldn't be the IRA, or maybe it should be the IRA because the tax benefits go along with it. And maybe you should leave some other stuff to the children because they're going to have to drain that down because of the Secure Act 2.0 that came into effect.
What is that?
So I ran into somebody at a seminar that had no idea about that. And they're like, oh my gosh, I need to change that. You should consider that.
What is that? If you don't mind me putting you on the spot.
No, the Secure Act 2.0, it revolves around a lot. Look, for example, and this I think was not good planning by the federal government, but one of the main changes when it comes to investment accounts is that a lot of my clients inherited an IRA or tax deferred account from their parents, and they could continue that forever.
Yep.
Nowadays, you can't do that unless you're a spouse.
That's what I was curious
Yeah, and
about.
so if you leave it to children or anybody that's not a spouse, you lose you have to drain that account in 10 years, which is a tax consequence. And so there's folks out there literally leaving money to their children in an IRA, and they don't realize because their children make money over $100K in the house that legacy money is going to be taxed above 23%, maybe even higher depending on their income.
Oh my
And so
God.
There could be a better way to structure your assets to transfer wealth.
That's what I was asking you about. Okay, this makes a ton more sense now, and it's all coming together here. Okay, let's hit quick pause. It's 9:36. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back, chat it up with Curtis Stevens, some more Stevens Planning. You stay there, and I'll be here.
Nobody cares what I know until they know that I care. And here at Stevens Planning, we establish a relationship built on trust as soon as you walk through our doors. We cover every aspect of a solid retirement plan. We will help you with investment choices as well as address and acknowledge your plans for financial development. It's our responsibility to help you safely and efficiently navigate your finances. You are the reason we're here, and whether you choose to join us at Stevens Planning, allowing us the opportunity to secure your future or not, we look forward to getting to know you.
Hail damage isn't always visible, but it can cost you thousands if ignored. Archer Roofing and Restoration are storm damage and roof replacement experts, offering free inspections to catch problems early. We'll help with your insurance claim and provide financing options that make protecting your home affordable. Proudly veteran-owned and community-focused. Always on your side. Call 618-575-0016 or visit archerroof.com today.
If you thought quality home building was a thing of the past, think again. Welcome to Ralph G. Pasley Custom Homes, an award-winning builder known for craftsmanship, attention to detail, and homes designed around the way you live. From thoughtful design to expert construction, every home we build reflects decades of experience and a commitment to doing things the right way. Ralph G. Pasley Custom Homes. Award-winning homes built with pride. Visit Pasley.com to learn more and start building your dream home today.
This July, the fastest boats in the world take over the Mississippi. Catch the thrill of F1 powerboat racing. July 17th to 19th at Riverfront Park in Alton, Illinois. Speed, rivals, champions. This is more than a race. It's the Midwest National. Kicking off with the Meet and Greet Street Party July 17th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at Max and Downtown Alton. Cold beer and live music. Alton Midwest Nationals F1 powerboat racing. July 17th to 19th. Don't miss the action.
Looking for the perfect camper for your next getaway? Visit Coleman's Country Campers at 2 Fun Lane in Hartford, Illinois, where families have been finding travel trailers, fifth wheels, toy haulers, and RVs since 1991. Call 618-254-1180 and let their friendly team help you find the right camper for your next adventure. From weekend camping trips to cross-country memories, your journey begins at Coleman's Country Campers, because at Coleman's, adventure starts on Fun Street.
Back with Curtis Stevens Planning. Oh, hold on. They don't know that yet. We changed our where we do our lower thirds. Now we're back with Curtis Stevens Planning. As we're getting back into this, we ended on a really good point with the IRAs and just some of the Secure Act 2.0. I think that was great.
Well, more importantly, the big beautiful bills come out past that, and folks are feeling some of that on their tax returns now.
Yeah,
there's some things in play, and there's stuff on the table that to be discussed again in 2028. So that actually creates a planning window, CJ, and that's stuff that we talk about, not necessarily in this estate planning one. That's more of our taxes and retirement one that we do. And folks are feeling that, and probably in positive ways.
Well, and now as we're going into that, I think that's going to be really exciting for you in your position to kind of see, what's new, what could be coming, and how you can maximize that for your clients. I mean, that's really exciting stuff.
Yeah, there's some opportunities there. And as the government, how the government's always playing with our tax laws. Mm-hmm. Always. And so they call some things permanent. That just means they're not set to be discussed again until 2028. But you know the deal. They can change things at any time.
Yeah, it's you just never know. And,
But more importantly, back to the estate planning, because of our great state of Illinois, there are estate taxes in this state that do not exist on a federal level. And there are people walking around with hundreds of thousands of dollars that are going to be due in taxes because they don't have a trust, because they don't properly position their estate, and people don't realize that. And so that's more of the taxes and more of the things we're going to be discussing revolving around positioning accounts, estates, stuff like that. Right? Not necessarily conversions, not necessarily marginal tax rates, how those work. We want to keep it focused directly on what's going to impact the estate.
It's really important stuff. And that goes into this, what account should be titled in a trust, if that makes sense, and which one should never be.
Yeah, well, first of all, not everybody should have a trust, right?
Great answer.
Not everybody should have one of those. Not everybody needs one of those. There's ways that you can have everything kind of pay out exactly where you want it to go. But I will say there's a difference between a recipe and a crock pot analogy that I like to use. And so there's ways to position assets, right, for long-term long-term care. There's different types of trust. We talk about all of those things, and they're important. People have questions about those. Probate, how's it work? How can you be private, right? If you want to be private about what you have in your estate, trust is the only thing that does that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Who do you think qualifies for a trust? You know, like who do you think, like who would not? If you were working with someone, would you be like, I don't think this is for you?
Yeah. So generally it's people that have some guidelines. I'll go to the crock pot analogy on this. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go back with this.
Sorry.
So no, that's okay. So if somebody tells you, hey, crock pot will be done at 5, turn it off, you're good to go. Mm-hmm. That feels a lot different than somebody saying, hey, here's a recipe, whip that up and you'll have what you need, right?
Right.
So that truly can be the difference between a will
I hear you.
and a trust.
Yep.
And then if there's extenuating circumstances, like I have trust where, you know, grandpa's passed and one of the granddaughters is taking care of things, and there's disabled people in the family. And so there's also a third party corporate trustee involved to make sure that generationally grandpa's wishes are carried out, right? So if you want to make sure that there's control over the money, where it's going, it's doing what it should be doing instead of just paying out where you want it to go, a trust is definitely something to consider.
That's a great point.
Yeah. And if you just want to make sure things go where they go and you don't necessarily care how it's handled, you did your job and you got it to where it needs to be, then maybe just titling some of your current assets across the board could do that for you with a will.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a power of attorney, that's a no-brainer. You should have that.
Yeah. Well, and have it done the correct way too, and all that, all that good stuff. And that's where it comes into this, because it comes back in really to this event on August the 13th with my next question, because you're only one piece of the puzzle, the proverbial pie. You aren't the one-stop shop for all the answers when it comes to, the legal side of things and everything else. You're definitely a big liaison and you're advocate. How important is it to have not only the estate attorneys and CPAs, but everyone really talking together and not like you guys are on the phone every day about the same client, but at least having that frequent recurring communication for that individual? How important is it?
It's crucial. It's very critical, especially depending on what the family has going on. But at the day, in a world where we have so much information at our fingertips and a lot of it's conflicting, where you can have a licensed fiduciary and an estate attorney with more than 30 years of experience in the same room being held accountable to the room, and no one has to go double check anything. That's real-time answers. Yeah. And that's a unique situation that we have found brings a lot of value to the community. So we're excited to do these. We're excited. We see people leaving, thanking us, telling them, hey, so glad you mentioned TOD, POD, how to, just simple things that they can take with it. We do guarantee a nugget, something you can use if you come, promise you.
Really cool stuff. And now tax planning, tax preparation, two completely different things. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you get phone calls a lot in April that go, hey, I forgot to file my taxes this year. I didn't know if you guys did that or not. But what does the advisor add? And I think that you have a really good thought on this, that a tax return alone never will.
Well, so we don't prepare taxes. I don't want anything to do with that. Again, I'm not a licensed CPA. But the difference, what I found at most clients when it comes to tax planning, they'll just go to their tax preparer and their job is to find deductions for that year. When you blend that with a fiduciary who's looking out for a tax liability over your lifetime, there's a lot of opportunity there to reduce your tax liability over your lifetime. And the more you can a lot of folks look at their IRA or tax deferred accounts and they look at the statement and they forget they don't own all that. Right? They have a lien on that account. The IRS has a portion of that. And so depending on what tax laws are in retirement depends on how much of that's yours, and no one knows that. So being strategic about securing some of that, buying the government out, positioning your assets, it can make a lot of sense. But we're not going to get into all that at this one. See, I like talking about that stuff. I get sidetracked. We're going to focus on estate planning in this one, and we're going to let Liz Heller do what she does, bring some insight. It's going to be fun.
Well, and so going into that too, because I know that this is this is a great question for everybody, is You know, we're in the game. You're with your clients. Let's say, you know, this isn't a new client. They didn't start late in life. They started with you when they should. When do you have the conversation with their adult children on the game plan? Is it after mom and dad are passed? Is it after one's gone in that?
No, that's a great question. And, you know, it's funny. I feel like all my answers are, it depends. But in my life, in business, in people's lives, it's very circumstantial and things depend. And so, you know, for me, as soon as my client's comfortable with it, it makes sense. Okay. Right? Yeah. Because ultimately, I have some clients where they have their children involved right now, and they're still with us, and that's great because everyone's on the same plan. Everyone knows what's going to happen on the front end if something takes place unexpectedly and what the back end looks like.
I like that.
And that's how you serve a family. In my opinion, the best way possible. We don't want surprises with estate. We don't want surprises with money unless it's shooting up, right?
Right.
Those are the only ones we really want.
You want a, hey, good news thing, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so when a family walks out of your office, and I'm sure that this can get tough for some, it's all fluid, right? I'm sure there's some families that get super excited about this and, you know, they're ready to go, rock and roll. But I'm sure there's others that maybe they're a little stressed out after that initial meeting, or they're, you know, wondering, is everything really going to be okay after that first conversation? Because you have more questions than answers sometimes, because you go, man, did we do all that the right way? Did I set this up? What do you hope that they leave with when a family goes in the first time? What do you hope they leave with more than anything?
You know, when people come in to see me initially, we do a viewpoint, and I don't need your statements. I don't need to know how much you're worth. We need to figure out how you look at your money and where your concerns and questions, priorities are. Yeah. And so my goal initially is to help people, even if they don't work with me, that they leave knowing, hey, this stuff, I did this viewpoint. You're right. We talked about it. These things are definitely very important. I need to address them. We don't scare people. We don't shake them down. We accept people right where they're at. And just the fact that they're in there talking to me means that they care. Yeah. It means that they're willing to make a difference and make a change. And so we respect that, right? We can't be all things to all people, but we want them leaving with something that they can use, pointed in the right direction, even if it's not with Stephen's planning, because we can't be all things to all people. Right? Yeah, and it's fair. And that's where you can get a taste of it for yourself with Liz Heller, a partner at Goldenberg, Heller, and Antignoli, and also Curtis Stevens, fiduciary advisor, Stevens Planning, over there at The Wedge, August the 13th, 6 p.m. Dinner provided at no cost. That's 620 East Broadway in Alton. And you're going to learn just a ton. 618-551-0028, or you can sign up StevensPlanning.com/events and get your seats because they are limited. Anything else to talk about right now? Not at the moment, CJ. Pleasure to be here as always. Thanks for your time, buddy. Oh, man, always great talking with you. Same here. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back with more Daily Show next.